what got you into content, specifically Overwatch League content?
Yeah, so originally I was just a fan, really liked the league during the inaugural season, 2018. I was attracted to the league because I was a huge Patriots fan. I'm from Boston, and the Patriots had the Boston Uprising. I was a casual player, and I was like, wow, this is really cool, and I really wanted to get involved one day. I just kind of ended up doing social media for a bunch of like tier 5 teams for fun, like community tournaments, like Tranquility, stuff like that, just like kind of for fun, like, stuff. And all of a sudden I kind of found myself in a position where I was working for a contenders organization, Revival, after just doing a few things here and there. Kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, wow, like I can actually make a career out of this. So I just kept kind of working at it and applying for things, and then I got an offer from the Houston Outlaws to be their social media manager in 2021.
So I started making content in tier 3, mostly because I had friends that played in open division, and I just like making fun of them. So I just started making memes about them, and then I just got really good at editing. So I took my editing, went to TikTok, and around the time in like 2020, a lot of Overwatch League teams like had no TikTok content at all. And that's when like NYXL approached me. They're like, hey, I saw some of your videos. Do you mind like making a few for us?
For about a year, I went back to doing all the nonfiction filmmaking stuff. I was filming documentaries. I was doing advertisements for people in the city I lived in, just a lot of freelance stuff. And but at the same time, I started this project called College Esports News, where my friends and I from school kind of got together and we formed this like digital platform that we're still trying to grow, where we just wanted to provide a centralized kind of outlet for people to get all the information that they can about college esports, just because right now getting information on college esports is very sporadic, where it's really hard to tell what is going on, what tournaments are happening, where do I go to watch them, like how do I pay attention to this. Yeah, so we just kind of wanted to provide a platform for people to get all of the information that they need. And it's a platform that's still growing. We're still working on it. And I kind of just did that in my free time. And from there, just in the muck of applying for jobs, I ended up landing an interview with Atlanta Esports Ventures, which is the company that owns Atlanta Reign.
It actually was pretty lucky. I was just making little video memes on Twitter for a while, just like for fun. And a lot of them were about like the Overwatch League or like just Overwatch in general. And I got reached out to by Haley, who's another social media manager in the esports scene. And she asked if I wanted to like try to make TikToks for a contenders team called Solaris. I was like, sure. And then 2 weeks later, I got messaged by Fibbledork, who used to work for the Florida Mayhem, that Florida Mayhem was hiring TikTok editors for their TikTok page. And I interviewed and I got the job. And ever since then, I've just been making TikToks.
Nice. So what was it like actually making that transition to Overwatch?
I think it's one thing. It's like there's no like necessarily like right skill set or like a right way to do things. I think in social media, I think a lot of it is kind of trying new things, seeing what sticks, seeing what works. But I think transitioning, I think from what was kind of like a part-time, more for fun thing to like, this is my job, this is essentially my life, this is full-time, this is all the time, is really, really difficult.
I think one of the things that I've taken away from the content side of things is that you tend to work with the most positive and fun side of the community, but also the most negative and toxic side sometimes, right? So what's it like working in that environment, specifically on TikTok?
I think there's like a little disconnect on TikTok because a lot of people make alt accounts just to be mean. There's a lot of sexist people, I think, too, and that's definitely been a struggle. But, there's always filters. I kind of just filter out, some words and then all the comments go away. But there's a lot of good to the community, too. Like, all the content creators are, like, really dedicated. They'll always comment on my videos. So, like, the community is very supportive. And that's the best part.
I had actually never done social media management before working for Rain. A lot of it was like strictly in video production. Sure. And so when I transitioned to social media management for this job, it was a really, really big adjustment for me. And kind of the hardest part of it was trying to like find a voice for Atlanta Reign. You know, like what is the company voice? Like, how do we project ourselves in comparison to the other teams? And part of that learning process was also, like you said, like kind of absorbing all the feedback that people would give. And honestly, yeah, it's like sometimes you get moments that are like really wholesome. Like we've just been doing a small little campaign for Donghack getting nominated for Breakthrough Player of the Year in the Esports Awards, and it was really nice to see all the support that he's been getting, and like all the people that want to rally behind him, especially after grand final, especially after playoffs this year, where he felt disappointed in his performance. So that's a really wholesome moment. As someone who's new to social media management, it was really hard for me to get over that hurdle of, you know, when there's negativity in the comments and people are directing like their hatred towards like or disappointment, I would be a better word, like towards the Atlanta Reign organization, to not like think that they're talking to me directly. And like so many times when like so many times, especially during playoffs, when like we got kicked out right away, we get so many people in the comments just like calling out like the staff and the players and saying, you guys need to fire all of them. And it would just make me like feel like so defensive. I would just wanted to get in the comments and just like shake their heads and be like, you have no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, that other than that, like I feel like it's been mostly positive.
TikTok as a platform has a lot of like mixed positivity and negativity, and a lot of times you see a lot more of the positivity because that gets upvoted more, and so it's like shown more in the comments. But there is a lot of negativity sometimes, especially when we would talk about like topics like sexism and stuff, because we had a series on the Gamer Girls TikTok where we were basically like trying to like talk about like sexism and gaming and stuff. And a lot of those TikToks would get a lot of hate from people who would just kind of like spam comment like a lot of like slurs and like very, very mean things. And so when that happens, it's usually just best to either just ignore it or to just like block them.
Right.
Because like
not to engage.
You don't really want them. Yeah, basically. Because you don't want to give them like more ammunition to like attack you with.
But I'm sure there's a lot of good things. And I guess on that note, do you have any particular piece of content, whether it was a TikTok video or even just something you did with Twitter, that you're particularly proud of or that stands out to you even over these last few years?
Yeah, my most popular TikTok that I've like ever made was for the Kansas City Pioneers, and I literally spent like 4 hours keyframing this guy so that I could make the meme, and then it got like 6 million views, and the meme format like started like popping off like everywhere, like literally like everyone on TikTok was using it afterwards, and I was like, holy crap. So that's the most proud part of my career, because like I kind of created like a TikTok trend.
What the is this piece of shit?
For Outlaws, we did this campaign with the Washington Justice called Outlaws for Justice, which I really liked because it was essentially me working with, like, it was literally only me from the Outlaws working with the entirety of Justice's creative team to create what was essentially like a charity drive. We were raising money for women in need, because there was a lot of stuff happening at the time with Blizzard and not being great, you know, towards women.
Right.
So we were trying to raise some money, and essentially it was like, you know, we're each raising money for a local charity in our area in Houston and in DC. The losing team has to give money to the winning team's or charity. But we also, you know, regardless of like the agreement was like we were going to donate to each other's no matter who won. Actually, it was just kind of like a way to build up hype. And then what was really cool was that the league actually stepped in and donated some money too. We didn't coordinate with them at all, but after the fact they came to us like, hey, like we'd like to help too. That's awesome. Yeah. For Dallas Fuel, I think my favorite one that I ever did was when the original announcement broke for Blizzard and Microsoft potentially merging, like way back when, like, you know, before the 2022 season even started. Our entire social team, like before work was even like when none of us were in the office, like, hey, like how to react to this. So, you know, we thought of this idea that like it wasn't just my idea. Like I want to make this like very clear. Like, this is a very much a team effort. I want to give a lot of credit to Lindsay Caudill, who was my boss and one of my mentors throughout my time, as well as Zach, who was our boss. But we all worked together and we came up with this idea, like, what if like Microsoft like made Blizzard like world real? And that post popped off. So that was a really fun little moment. And that off season was also like forever between 2021 and 2022. So we had like 6 months to kill, I think. So there's a lot of like really cool kind of just engagement stuff that we did because the team wasn't there for a lot of it. You know, they're still in Korea before they came back. And then for Spitfire, I would say I did like the silliest little Kiriko meme edit, and it was when they announced the One Punch Man collaboration and they showed the Kiriko skin. And I like just really quickly like cut it out like from the background of the graphic they made, and I posted it like on a little template. And I can't even remember what it was. It might have been the Drake meme or something like that. You know, where it's like not this one versus this one or something like that. And that got like 10K likes, and it took me like crazy. 3 minutes to make.
I'm not gonna lie, a lot of my like Toronto posts were meme stuff, but like one of my proudest things was something I made for NYXL. I did a research project on LGBTQ history in New York City, and I made like a 9-tweet thread about it during Pride Month. It took a lot of effort, but it was one of my best like pieces of work.
I was really happy with all the series that we brought forward. One series that they were already doing was Gator's Corner, and a lot of it was me stepping in and thinking of like, okay, how could we take what's already here and, you know, up the production value a little bit. So I felt like with each one, we kind of like improved it. We incorporated, you know, we incorporated some new backgrounds, and we improved the lighting a lot, and we got a lot cleaner with the editing, and we started showing the questions that we were asking Gator, so it didn't feel like he was just talking to nobody, and just like small little improvements here and there. And I'd say what I'm most proud of though is probably that Tor 1v1 bit that we did with Zoe for the grand finals. That was actually off of a tweet that our old social media manager. So when I came in, our social media manager was on the way out, and she was just kind of like giving me ideas on different campaigns that we might be able to run on Rain socials. And she sent me that graphic of like, you have to go up against this player in a 1v1 for your life, you know, are you going to survive? And when she showed me the graphic, it was for Call of Duty players, I think. So I was like, oh, what's an Overwatch version that we could do of this? So I had our graphic designer make an Overwatch version of that with the Tor 1v1s, and I wanted to incorporate, you know, like the casters and different people on the desk, just because I thought it would make it more fun and get more of the community involved. And yeah, and then like Zoe like loved it so much that she reached out to us, and she was like, hey, like we should actually like do this. So yeah, that's I got sick. To be a part of that production process, and we like got her a jersey, and we took photos with her, and we had the whole bit during playoffs where we were like welcoming her onto the team, which of course like came back to bite us in the butts when we like ended up getting knocked out right away. But that was just like such a fun thing to work on.
But are there any interesting, funny, sad, weird stories that you've picked up over the last couple of years, whether working in the league or just working in esports in general? Skater, like, you know, do backflips in his spare time, or like, you know, his Dong Hack, a great singer, you know, like.
Oh, you want the tea? You want the tea of what's going on? Well, I will say, the every day after Rain finishes practicing, I catch Chio in the gym, and he's been getting big. Let me just tell you, like Chio is an avid lifter, and he may not tell you, maybe too shy to say, but if you ask that guy to flex, like he will do it, and he'll like do it with like he'll like blush a little bit and like do a little flex. And,
that's
like,
hilarious.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
I remembered a whole bricked up scandal. Well, it wasn't really like a scandal, but Florida Mayhem sponsors got a little angry at us when we did that, and apparently that was like, and this is like secondhand information I'm getting from like other people in the org when I was working there. Yeah. But apparently, it was like the last minute deadline for us to submit our hashtags for the Overwatch season, so that we could, you know how like the hashtags have like a special icon next to them.
Yeah.
So like they were running out of time, and so they just decided like, oh, we'll just do bricked up because it'll be funny, right? And so they passed that without like approval from like anyone.
Oh no.
And so all the like sponsors got like super upset with mayhem, and I think they had to change it afterwards because
Yeah,
of
I
that.
seem to remember that. That's actually
Yeah.
crazy.
But I think the most important thing is like if you're gonna take shots, either you have to laugh at yourself after it goes horribly wrong, or you just keep punching no matter what happens. I think
Pretty
a great
much.
example of at least what I did this season is, obviously we had like kind of that back and forth with Boston, and they did great. I thought it was really funny that for me personally, it was like the one good season they had since season 1, and they were just gonna continually like go after people no matter what happened. Like I respect that. Like, you're keeping it consistent. But I'm
Right.
also gonna fire back, when you fail then. So that was kind of my like, you beat us, but when you lose, like I'm gonna go after you. So I got my
Right.
little moment like that. But also when we lost to Houston, I did like a meme before of like, oh, you guys don't have an Overwatch League trophy. And then we lost. I was like, I'm gonna bring up the old like Immortals meme, which I don't think a lot of people got. I think a lot of people took that really seriously, which actually was really like, one, it made me feel really old. I'm like, did people not know this reference? But two, it actually led to a lot of great engagement because people thought it was real. It was like, the person, this is not responsible, yada yada yada. Like the person who did this is fired. So moments like that where it's kind of like that happy accident of like, one, I'm making fun of myself, but two, it like goes over way better than I ever thought it would. Are like those great moments where you really feel good about the work you did.
Well, one of my funniest memories was my first ever like content shoot, so like in-person content. We were doing the hype video for the Overwatch League this year with Toronto Defiant, and we had like different players going on at different times. So when one player was like recording their part, the other ones were just sitting there. And I played like checkers with Hydron for like 4 hours, and I think I won like once. He's like so competitive, like not just in Overwatch, he's like competitive in checkers. Oh, and Connect 4. Like he does not lose.
Just don't let it get to his head, and it's big enough as it is.
No, I won once, and I did not let him, like, I did not let it down. If he ever wins an Overwatch League, just know I beat him in Connect 4 once.
Connect 4 is fun. I like Connect 4. So obviously, all that aside, like, a lot of stuff in flux at the moment with what's going to happen in the league and in the future of just professional esports as a whole. So do you have any plans or do you have any ideas like what's next, or is it just kind of a day by day thing like the rest of us?
So I have a lot of copium, so I do go day by day. I really hope that the Overwatch League like continues, so because I really do love my job. But I've been working on getting my marketing certificate in digital marketing, so my plan is, if it like fails, is to just take my experience and like my stats and try to find a better job with that. I am like really thankful for what Overwatch gave me though.
Honestly, I hope to stay in esports, but I'm always leaving the door open for any possibilities. Like in an ideal future, I would love to keep working in esports, and I would love to experience even working in other games. Like I love I love Overwatch League is where I got started. And Call of Duty League, I'm like just starting to get into Call of Duty, and I think it's like a really like fun esport that people are like super passionate about. There's a lot of tea specifically with Call of Duty. Like there's a lot of like toxicity within that scene where like people always have like some talking to say about other players in the scene, and it's very very fun. But yeah, like ideally I'd love to keep working in esports. It's like an industry that I'm really passionate about. Like through my work with College Esports News, it's kind of something that I discovered, whether I'm getting paid for it or not, I'm just going to keep working in it. So I don't think there's any way that passion is really going to die.
I've been trying to build up my own TikTok because I was like, if I can make a bunch of TikToks for like all these orgs and stuff, like why not try to do it for myself, And so I've just been kind of focusing on building up my TikTok page, and I really do want to continue working in the Overwatch space. I think that the Overwatch League might come back. I don't really know, but I'm very hopeful for it to come back, and I hope that it's like better, like more community orientated.
The dream has always been for me to eventually be like a head of social media or head of marketing, something like that. For the time being, I'm still at Cloud9. I'm very fortunate where I'm in the position where no matter what happens with Overwatch, because I primarily work in League of Legends already, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty set with my position currently. So I'm very fortunate for that and very lucky to work with such a great socials team at Cloud9. It's really tricky because I know a lot of my friends that are very talented aren't necessarily in the same boat. So I'm really wishing the best of luck to them and hoping that they can find great opportunities with either within the orgs they're already part of, or with other orgs that they can find themselves at later on. But yeah, I mean, my goal is the same, and luckily I can continue to work on League of Legends. I've been working on Worlds right now, which hopefully we have better results. 1 and 2 currently, but not quite out of it yet. But it's a hard landscape to be part of. I think it's very difficult. There's only so many spots for so many people.